Okay, good afternoon. So today's parsha topic is titled Al-Qaeda versus Akaidah. Akaidah is in the binding of Yitzchak. I should say today's clickbait title is Al-Qaeda versus uh, uh, Akaidah. But now that we got you here, we're going to actually learn a beautiful sikha of the Rebbe about the greatness and the uniqueness of this great test and the mesiras nefesh, the self-sacrifice of Avram Avinu. Okay? But it would be nice if the clicker worked. So, how about this? Oh, so must I sacrifice family for career? Very deep. Okay, so we start off the first source. This is the beginning of the story of the whole episode of the test. After certain words or matters came to pass, Hashem tested Avram, and he told him, please take your child that you love and bring him up for a burnt offering, as a burnt offering, on one of the mountains that I'm going to specify. You with me? Avram, you ready? You ready to join me? I forgot to say the topic today. I actually made a mistake. That was the side topic. The main topic we're doing now is being present. Okay?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Why does it say, please take your son, you're only one?
So Rashi answers it. I can't go into it now. I do focus. You see, I want to focus on the word here. No. You see the word no is highlighted? What's this please? Every word in the Torah is very precise. So Rashi brings a medrash. Rashi brings these words that basically says, no, the word no, please, can only denote like pleading. And it compares it. It says this may be compared to a king of flesh and blood who was confronted by many wars, which he won by the aid of a great warrior. Subsequently, he was faced with a severe battle, and he says to this warrior, help me win this one, right? Or else everything else there would be no substance to the other ones. So Hashem also told Avram, when it came to this test, I've tested you with many trials and you passed them all. Now please pass this test, or people will say that there was no substance in the previous ones. Rashi brings this to explain the word please. That Hashem was saying, please pass this test, or people should not say that the original test, there was no the other 9 tests, there was no substance. And the question is, why? What is that supposed to mean? Let's say someone lifted up 100 pounds, 200 pounds, 300 pounds, 400 pounds, and he got stuck by 500. What would you say? He didn't lift up the 100, 200, 300, and 400? No, those he lifted up. But 500 was too heavy for him. Right? Someone could jump over the 2 feet one, or 3 feet one, and he can't jump over the 10-foot one. Doesn't cancel out the previous accomplishments. It just means this one was too tough for you. This one you were not strong enough to do. What is the meaning of this Rashi and this, what he brings from the Gemara, that Hashem said, please pass this test? Or people will say all the other tests was like worthless, like no substance. Understand the question? It's like, okay, all it shows is that this was too heavy for him. But everything till then, the other tests he did pass them. This test was too hard if he doesn't pass it. Okay, everyone with me with the question? Now Barbanel writes on this story that this section of the Torah is the pride of Israel. They merit before their Father in heaven. Therefore it is mentioned so often by our mouths in our prayers and all day, and should be analyzed and studied more than than other sections of the Torah. It's the great pillar of our religion, of our Yiddishkeit, of our relationship with Hashem. It's a very big deal, this story. It's actually part of the morning prayers we say before we start with the minyan in many communities. And the next question is, why is it such a big deal? The story of the test of Avraham Avinu. It's a very interesting story, true. But why such a great pillar of our relationship with Hashem and our faith? We had a lot of, unfortunately, we had a lot of martyrs in our history. I bring over here one famous classic one. Rabbi Akiva was taken out for execution. It was the time for Shema. And while they combed off his flesh with iron combs, he was reciting the Shema, accepting upon himself the kingship of heaven. His disciples said to him, "Our teacher, even to this point," he said to them, "all my days I've been troubled by the verse. It bothered me when I would say, 'Love Hashem with all your soul,' which means even if he takes your soul. I always was bothered by the fact, when will I have the opportunity to actually show this? Now that I have the opportunity, shouldn't I be excited?" And he recited the word echad long until he expired while saying it. His soul left him. And then a heavenly voice declared how fortunate is Rabbi Akiva that your soul left as with the word echad. This is just one example of countless, of great rabbis and not great rabbis, and people who gave their life for Hashem, literally, actually did get killed and tortured and killed. So many stories. Jewish history is full of examples like this. What is the big deal about Avraham Avinu's test? Especially since it didn't even end off, in the literal sense. He was saved at the last moment, right? So what is the actual big deal? That's the next question we want to explore. Everyone with me? Sasha, you got both questions? Who remembers the first one? See, that's what happens when you do the second question. Remember the first question. What was it?
The na.
Yeah.
What did the na have to mean? And Rashi said that he was pleading.
Yeah, but what did we ask on that? Well, because you failed the last test, it just means the last test. The last test was too difficult. It doesn't mean the other tests. Why does it mean the other tests were worthless? Remember that question?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's go on. So one answer that's suggested in the commentaries is that perhaps to sacrifice your child for Hashem is even more difficult. Not just giving your life, but giving your child. The KGB were famous for this, right? And other, they would take the child and torture the child, threaten to torture the family members, right? And a lot of times that was much more effective than torture on the person themselves. It's a known thing. It's actually very logical. And it could be a very good explanation. Just a little technical problem. And that is, we have many stories of parents who even sacrifice their children. Here's a famous one. I'm not going to do all the fine print with you, but Hannah and her 7 sons. The famous story in the Talmud around the time of Hanukkah that the Roman emperor tried to get the one by one each of the 7 children to bow down to his idol, and it says literally, the emperor said, "I'll throw down my seal before you consume." Oh, the last son, he killed each one, was killed and tortured, and there was one son left, and he said, "You know what? At least let's pretend." He wanted to save face, so he told the child, "I'll drop my ring, and you pick it up, and you'll pretend like you're bound. You'll pick up the ring. You won't be bound to me, but look, at least in front of my officers, it'll look like you bowed to me a little bit, and I won't have to kill you." So the child, who was the youngest of all of them, he couldn't be too old. He told them, "If you're concerned about your own dignity and honor, how much more so should I be concerned about the honor of the king and the creator of the world?" And he didn't go along with this thing. And he said, "Fian, okay, funny. If your own honor is so important, how much more so the honor of the Holy One, blessed He." And his mother said, "Let me say like goodbye to him and kiss him." She said to him, as they were taking him out to be killed, she said to him, "My son, go and say to your father Abraham that you put one son on the altar, but I have bound 7 altars. And then she also killed herself. And a voice said from heaven also declared about her that she reached a very special level. By the way, one of the only times you're allowed to kill yourself in Jewish law is to prevent yourself from being tortured to serve idols or things like that, like to do one of the cardinal sins. Then everyone agrees that you're allowed to give your life if you're afraid you're going to be tortured, because torture is very difficult to withstand. I'm not going to go into that topic now, but so it's a very nice answer. But we also had this. So again, what's the big deal about Avraham Avinu? You can't say this answer because we had many, many stories like this. This is just a sample story, and that's recorded in Talmud, where a mother gave 7 of her children. She encouraged them each, and she even says, "Go tell Abraham that I did what you did 7 times over," and they all die. This is the message she told the child before he was killed. She told him to go upstairs to Abraham when you come up there and tell him this. So we still need a explanation. What was unique about Avraham Avinu? Everyone with me? Let's continue. So the Sefer Ikrim writes of Yosef Alba. He says that what's special about Avraham Avinu was he didn't really have a commandment yet. There was no mitzvah to sanctify God's name yet. Which everyone afterwards, all the people who did it afterwards, that was their obligation to do that. Avraham Avinu was before all this. Let's see his words. This is the reason why we're mentioning in our prayers constantly the binding of Yitzchak by Avraham. More than all the other pious and holy martyrs, they gave their lives for the holiness of Hashem, the sanctification of Hashem's name. Like Rabbi Akiva and the other rabbis in his time, referring to the 10 famous martyrs that we talk about in Yom Kippur, V'chol Akdoshim, and other holy people who had this merit and they gave their lives. Hashem B'chol Davadar, that we throughout the generations we had many of them, unfortunately. Lefisha Kol Echad Mehem. What's the reason? Why is Avram unique? Because all of them, true, they did a great, great deed. They gave their life to sanctify Hashem's name. They fulfilled this mitzvah. They have an obligation not to disgrace the name of Hashem. And the positive mitzvah to sanctify the name of Hashem. He wasn't, even the mitzvah of Hashem didn't force him. First of all, it was before Matan Torah, and he takes it that Hashem was like asking him to do it, but it wasn't like, it didn't have the status of a bona fide mitzvah that we deal with now. That's what he's suggesting. But the truth is, the Rebbe says it's hard to explain this and say be satisfied with this, because it's not really the case. First of all, Hashem himself asked Avram. You hear Avram? You hear Shloimeh? Yeah. Imagine Hashem came to you and asked you. Did Hashem come to our Akiva and encourage him and ask him personally? To Chana and the 7 sons? Did Hashem reveal himself to them and tell them? So Avram, in a way, is much easier to do it than the other ones. They had Torah, they learned Torah, they connected to Hashem, they had a relationship with Hashem, but no one had that personal request from Hashem. And many of the holy martyrs gave their lives to sanctify God's name, even when they were not required, according to Torah. Sometimes they did it, even when they could have had. There's times in Jewish law on this topic where there's a big debates if you're allowed to give your life, if you're supposed to, if it's praiseworthy, but you don't have to. Maybe we'll go more into this another class. It's not so simple, but there's definitely been times when great people gave their lives, even though they didn't have to. We were talking the other day. Remember that the Rebbe in prison refused to let non-kosher food enter his mouth, even though that's not one of the cardinal sins. And they could be, they were not forcing him, to break his religion. They just thought he was on a hunger strike. That's what it looks like. Right? So you have that also. So what was unique about Avram? Another idea that's brought in Sfarim is that Avram Avinu, this is another answer that could help solve it. You hear Shlomo? Kolas Chalas Kashers. He was the first one. He opened the pipeline of mesiras nefesh. He made it easier for all of us to do it. He built the train tracks. Now the train could go. He was the first one. He broke the ice, right? He made the pipe. So now, afterwards, we all do it, but he enabled us to do it. He empowered us to do it. He inspired us to do it. So you could argue this is why we focus on the prayers, specifically on Avram's story, because he's the first. But this also this is not. It's a great answer, but with a big problem, because we all watch young Avram. Avram Avinu himself had a whole story being thrown into the fire. Earlier, before the Akaidah, even before Lech Lecha. If that's the case, then that was where he opened the pipe, where he broke the ice. No, hold it for now. You see, so the Rebbe says it's a nice suggestion, but the truth is, if you want to say that that's the reason, then you would have to go to the case where he actually was thrown in fire. He actually had himself thrown in the fire. Again, I'm not doing all the text with you. Trust me, it's all there. Terach, it says all the details. Here's the story. Terach Ovid Slamim Haya. He worshipped idols. One time he left town, put Avram to sell instead of him. Remember that whole story we saw? This is actually where it's recorded. And then it says how he was thrown in the fire. And then it says Avram was thrown in and he was saved. And okay, you have a lot of there's details here, but we all watched the video, and and Rashi mentions it that Avram Avinu was thrown into a furnace. He gave his life. He risked his life. He was ready to die. He didn't know a miracle would happen. It was real, like giving his life for Hashem. So if you want to say that answer, you would have to be mentioning this in your prayers all the time. True, it's not in the it is only alluded in the text, but still. But if that's the point, you would have to mention it. Okay, so let's review what we had so far for Shlomo. You ready? What is so unique and special about the Qaeda? We had many martyrs. We try to say sacrificing a child is more difficult, but we couldn't say that because Hannah and the 7 sons. Then we said Avram could have objected, but he was told by Hashem himself, and we had martyrs who chose martyrdom. He was the first, but we said Or Kazdin, he was himself thrown. And then we had the other question. We had the other question, so we're left with the question. What is unique about Avram Avinu's self-sacrifice? We make such a big deal out of it. Right? And what was the first question on the burner?
Why is it not?
Oh. Why? And then what's the meaning that if you don't pass this test, all the other tests have no substance? Remember that question? One more question. Now we have a third question. What exactly does it mean that Avram opened up the path of mesiras nefesh? What are we saying? Do we really have a monopoly on mesiras nefesh? In all different cultures and religions, soldiers, people fighting to give their lives. It's not a uniquely Jewish feat, like something that's special by us. Why would we even say that? Avram Avinu, Pasach Hatziner, he opened the pipeline of mesiras nefesh, of self-sacrifice. It's like some kind of special, and he gives it over to us. We have the ability to do this. The non-Jews, unfortunately, right, we're still dealing with it now. Every day, the ongoing war, they're dealing with that, right? Oh, it's not to make too many jokes about this topic, but this one we could do. Afghanistan School of Suicide Bombings, right? Now pay attention. I'm only going to do this once, right? I hope. It's too deep for everyone? Okay. So, unfortunately, what I'm trying to bring out is they're famous for this. They're infamous. Hamas, They kill themselves. That's part of the whole. But what makes it so tricky, this war, that they're ready to give their lives. That's fanatic means, right? So why do we say that there's some kind of special Jewish self-sacrifice that Avraham Avinu opened the pipeline? A lot of our enemies do it also, and they're not learning Chassidus before davening. That's question number 3. So now we're going to answer all of them, all 3 questions together. And the point is, we're going to contrast 2 concepts: mesiras nefesh, giving your soul, versus giving your life. This giving your life sometimes makes sense. Soldiers do it all the time. There's a grenade, sometimes someone will jump on it to save his whole platoon. Or people go to war to protect their family. Is that irrational? It's totally logical. It's very noble, not downplaying it, but you're not really transcending yourself. You're actually actualizing yourself. Your family is more important to you. So, therefore, you're going to give your life for it. It's logical. It's still very special and noble and not easy. It's a big feat. But it's not like transcending logic. You're not like going out of yourself. You're totally actualizing yourself. This is what you care about. Your country, your friends, your family. So you give your life. It makes sense. That's called giving your life. That's giving your life. That's normal, right? What are all these people doing it? These terrorists. Why are they doing it? Why are they so quick? So many of them are giving their lives. What do they believe? They're getting 72 pies of pizza upstairs, right? Maybe you heard a different version. I think when Bin Laden came upstairs, he looks around, and Thomas Jefferson comes and gives him a kick. And he rolls over, and then Benjamin Franklin goes and stomps on him. And they all start beating him. And he's like, what's going on? And he's like, you didn't know there's going to be 72 Virginians here when you come? Right? You got it wrong. But make all the jokes aside, they believe they're going to get some great rewards and pleasures. Are they being selfless or are they being selfish when they give their lives? They're really brainwashed and they believe it. So they're actually being very selfish. It's not an act of transcending self at all. It's totally a selfish behavior. They want to get these 72 pies of pizza, and it's important to them. It's better, so that's the best way to do it, is to give your life for the cause. That's giving your life. It makes sense to them. It's totally logical. Isn't it better than this world full of all the stress and headaches and discomfort and their roller coaster? They believe they're brainwashed and they believe things, and it makes so much sense to give your life. You understand how the terrorists think? Mesiras nefesh is total devotion without focusing on yourself at all. You're not thinking about yourself. You transcend yourself. You give yourself over to someone else. On any form of physical or spiritual gain. Avraham Avinu was sabotaging his whole purpose, his soul. Why was he thrown in the fire? Why did he give his life in the fire? Why was he ready to die for? For what? To bring the message of one God to Hashem, right? To the world, of this true Creator, right? What was the future of that? Yitzchak. What if he was going around telling everyone against human sacrifices? You know what that does? He's ready to sabotage his whole mission, his whole life. This is what he was ready to die for now, for Hashem. Does that make any sense? Is he thinking about actualizing himself and what's important to him? Or he's just like suspending himself It's just, I'm here to do what Hashem wants, without any calculations about what's in it for me. It's a whole other kind of mesiras nefesh. This means giving over your soul. You see what's going on here? What's special? And now we can appreciate, we could answer all the questions, and we'll get to that. But you see what it says? It could be all the other ones were not really, the other tests didn't prove it as much like this one. Could be he did it because it made sense. How do you know he was so devoted that it was not about him at all? Like the giving your life. Listen, it's the truth. You have to give your life, just like the soldier gives his life it's the right thing to do, and it's wrong to do the thing. So you give your life. It makes sense to. Maybe he was thrown in the fire because it made sense. And the same thing with all the other tests. This test will show that he reached a level of transcendence, because this one totally went counter to anything that was meaningful to him and actually cared about. All right, a little marriage class. Give Shlomi a tap. Marriage stuff. You ready? I use this mashal a lot because it's in Chassidus a lot. So he brings flowers. The husband brings flowers because it increases his chance that he's going to get his favorite supper.
That's why I bring flowers to my grandma.
Is this selfish or noble?
Selfish.
Selfish. He cares about getting his spaghetti and meatballs, so he brings a flower. What about someone that brings flowers because he likes it, he appreciates it, makes a nice ambience in the home. It affects the atmosphere, the mood. Is that selfish or noble?
Selfish.
Still selfish. He just has a little more refined taste. What about the husband brings flowers because it says in the Good Husband manual that a good husband brings flowers periodically. So he makes sure to he wants it to be a good husband. Is that noble or selfish? Again, it's just different ways of focusing on yourself and what you care about. Right? Now, what about the husband who brings flowers to his wife because his wife appreciates flowers?
That's beautiful.
That's beautiful. And not only that, will his chances of your favorite supper be increased?
Yes.
Will there be a nice ambience in it?
Yes.
Check. Will you be considered a good husband?
Yes.
Check. But what's the difference? But why did you bring the flowers?
Because you love her.
You care about your spouse. You're not focusing, you're transcending yourself. This is all, again, a mashal, a big, big, big discussion all over the place in Chassidus about what it means to really serve the Eibishter properly. To serve Hashem genuinely is about transcending yourself, not to focus on what's in it for you, whether it's all the perks the Torah gives. The Torah says, this is that you'll get rewards, these are benefits and reward, but not to get distracted by that. It says in Pirkei Avos, right? Not on condition to get a reward. You're not focusing on that. The Torah does promise rewards, like you do get the benefits. But to focus on it shows that your whole relationship is off.
What does that say?
You enter yourself. The pasuk says, if you'll go in my statutes, you'll get all different blessings, the rain and the abundance. So, true, this I want to point out here that the Torah does talk about reward, just like in the previous slide. But it's not supposed to be your focus. If you focus on it, it's not a healthy relationship. So the Akaidah showed that Avraham Avinu was doing it for this reason. I'm just here to do what Hashem wants. That showed all the other tests. Now you could say those are, it didn't prove it in the other ones. This is the one that shows it. This is the difference of it. This is what Avraham Avinu opened the channel for us. This is the difference. This Gentiles don't have this concept. Even Jews don't always have it. A lot of times our even if we're doing self-sacrifice, it's a lot of times it's logic. Not always is the ability to totally transcend yourself. And by the way, it doesn't have to be manifest in literally giving your life. It's a state of being. It's a state of your relationship with Hashem where you're not focused on yourself. It's about what could I do for Hashem. And this is what we're all struggling with, trying to to get a little bit to experience this in our lives. But this is what Avraham Avinu empowers us. And this is the big deal. Why do we recite the story every day? What does it mean when Hashem tests us? Hashem says Hashem tested Avraham. He doesn't know what Avraham could do. Why does he have to test us? We say all the time Hashem is testing us. He doesn't know our abilities. Hashem created us.
See what we choose, to see what we do.
He wants us to know. And he wants us to actualize and to be aware of our great power. That's what was going on with Avram. The word test also means to like lift up like a banner, right? So this is, look what it says. The idea of a carbon is we have to be a carbon to Hashem. The Alter Rebbe says we're supposed to say every day the story of the Akaidah to remember the merit, and also kedei lachnia yitzray, to help subdue our own inclination, our drives, and our impulses, our cravings, our moods that are ungodly, or animalistic, to the service of Hashem. Just like Yitzchak gave over his life, to think how we are ready to sacrifice ourselves, to inspire ourselves to give ourselves over, like Yitzchak. This is the purpose why we recite this in the prayers all the time. We could also give ourselves a little bit to Hashem this way. That's the message. Okay, how are we doing time-wise? This is a separate class.
6:27. You have 3 minutes.
Let's stop here. I'm not going to start a whole other thing. We'll do that another day. Okay. Thank you, everybody. You were great.